Hello everybody, my name is Mitch. I am technologically challenged and I'm going to try to get through this video, but this video is all about pharmacy school interview day advice. What you should be doing before the day, during the interview, whatever. It's about that. So my name is Mitch, I'm 25, I'm from California, and it's spring of 2019 and I'm going through my interviews. So I'm going to try to elaborate and give you some advice about, what you should be doing or thinking during these interviews. And it really should be a stress-free experience. So I'm going to get more into that, but what I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to be talking about the interview day in 3 steps. So what you should be doing prior to the interview day, the interview day itself, and the interview. And by no means am I prepared to talk to you about this. Well, I mean, I did make an outline, but I'm not memorizing, I'm not reading off a script. I'm just telling you how it is. So prior to the interview day, and if you see me keep looking up, that's because I have a computer behind me and I have a word sheet that I'm looking at. But let's get into it. So prior to the interview day, you should research the school. So you've already applied to the school. You have an idea about, okay, well, are they a 3-year program, 4-year program, where it's located? If you don't know that, then you really haven't researched it enough. But you've been through PharmCast. You've submitted it, whatever. You have basic knowledge. Now you should research things about it, like the curriculum. So you should know if it's a 3 or 4 year. You should know how expensive it is, if that's important. But really, know what type of electives they offer. So if you want to do veterinary medicine, the school might not have an elective that has that. So that might be something that may deter you, or if they do have it, that might make you want to go to the school. So you could look up the curriculum, you could look up the research topics, what they do, if that's something that you're interested in. You could also look up what they do for the community, etc., things like that. So research the school, but it doesn't need to be elaborate. You don't need to go to the school knowing more about the school than what they're going to tell you. Because during the interview day, they're going to tell you all about the curriculum and you're going to be generating some questions. So for the first interview that I did, I researched the school and I was researching I was thinking about all these different questions like, oh, I'd ask them about that. It doesn't need to be that cookie cutter, because during the interview day itself, you might be interested in something and want to ask them questions about it. So really, you don't have to go in freaking out with a game plan. Okay, I'm going to say this for that. If they ask me this, I'm going to say this exactly. You just need to be confident. And when you ask questions, they'll come to you. You'll be interested in some sort of thing for the school, because really it's like dating somebody. You're going to be on a date with this school for 3 to 4 years. So you're going to have a lot of questions. You want to make sure the school is not some crazy psychopath chick that's going to ruin your life, right? So the interview day is just as much for you as it is for the school seeing if you're a good fit. You want to make sure that you're a good fit, but also that the school's a good fit for you. So prior to the interview day, yeah, do some research and look for things that you're interested in, can ask about, but really you don't need like a long sheet of questions. I remember I saw this video of a girl, she had like 15 questions that she was asking. Sometimes you don't even get that much time. They might give you 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions, and you might only get to ask a few, because depending on how much the other people talk, etc. So yeah, you should have a few questions, but really they'll come to you along the day. So for the interview day itself, number 1 goal, I have this list of goals. It's only 5 things. Number 1 goal, do not panic. Okay? I know the interview is a stressful time for a lot of people, but like I said before, you're going to this school, you're either driving or flying out to see if the school is a good fit for you. And you need to walk in there like you're 10 feet tall. You need to be confident in yourself and say, okay, I want to see what you guys have for me. And if you have that mentality, you are not going to be afraid during the interview. My voice didn't crack. I didn't panic. So really, you're there to see if the school is a good fit for you. So don't panic. Number 2, be confident in yourself. Confidence is key. Like I'm saying, when you're sitting in a room, you might have 2 or 3 people. If you have an MMI, that's different. That's where it's like a blind date sort of thing where you're getting all these different people. I don't know anything about that. But if you're in a traditional interview, you're going to have 2 or 3 people. right? They're going to be asking you questions. Imagine like you're being interrogated by the police. If you're not guilty, you want to be confident that you are not guilty. When you explain yourself, you're really selling yourself, and you're telling them about yourself because they know nothing about you. So be confident in yourself, and really confidence is the most important thing that you could do for this interview. So be confident and just be honest with yourself. Don't put on a facade. Don't pretend like you're somebody else. Tell them who you are. Now, if you have really bad social anxiety, or you might struggle to make eye contact, or you're looking down the whole time, something weird, I would recommend not doing that. Even if that's something you normally do, you need to sell yourself a little bit, but really just be confident in yourself. Tell them about your personality. Tell them things that you've grown from. Just tell them who you are. And that all starts with confidence. And confidence is important because when you go into the interview, you might have a set of questions that you know they're going to ask you, like, why do you want to be a pharmacist, etc. Something like that. Or tell us a little bit about yourself. You know they're going to ask you those questions, but there's going to be a lot of questions that you're not prepared for. And this is where confidence is important, because if they ask you, oh, if you were in this situation, and here's an example, like your group members are bickering, how would you handle the situation? They don't want you to sit there and think about it. They want you to have an answer right away. They want to see that you have problem-solving skills, and that really comes with confidence. You want to be confident. You want to say, I would do this, this, and this. Even if they don't agree, you want to have a set game plan. So that's important. Number 3, when you're there at the school, right away, you should participate and you should talk to people. Now, you might be wondering, oh, why do I need to talk to people, or my competition, whatever? This is to get your social juices flowing for the interview. So as much as I love meeting people, really talking to people was crucial because, my vocal cords were good. I was ready to go. These could be your potential classmates. So it is important to talk to them, but really just preparing yourself for the interview. So you don't have phlegm in your throat or whatever. You got everything cleared out. So yeah, participate, talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions before the interview. So I just went to a school and we had an orientation where they told us about the curriculum. I asked questions. I asked like two to 4 questions. And then they took us out of the room and we split up in groups, and I was talking to pharmacy students. I asked them questions. I asked them like 5 questions. And then they took us to another area where we talked to alumni at the college, and I asked them questions. So I basically asked every question I had about the school before I even got to the interview. So by the time I got to the interview, I even told them, I was like, look, I've been asking questions all day, but I still had questions for them. So really just don't worry about the interview. Really make sure that the school's a good fit for you. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if and you could recycle questions, because it's not like they're going to hear them when you're in the other room, right? So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to repeat questions. Obviously, during the interview, you're not going to repeat the same question. That's stupid. But yeah, so participate, talk to people, and really just ask people questions. And there's likely going to be a pharmacy student in the interview, so you could ask him or her questions about the experience, whatever. Or you could just do it during the day, because there's going to be pharmacy students there interacting with you. Number 4, don't think about the interview until it happens. So, and it might be in your subconscious, you might be thinking about it, that's fine. But during the day, most of the day is not the interview. The interview is usually the last thing you do, depending on the college. So, for example, at 10 a.m., I showed up at the college, we did the orientation thing, and then it wasn't until 3 p.m. that I had my actual interview. Now, during that time, you shouldn't panic. Don't think about the interview. You're there to explore the school. So while you're walking around the school, don't think about, okay, well, what am I going to ask the interviewers? It's good to know what you're interested in. And let's say you're walking around the school and you're walking around the research lab and you see something that's interesting to you. You like research. You say, oh, I saw that they worked on obesity. That's something that might interest me. You could ask them to elaborate more about that. So there are things like that you could ask, and that's okay to think about. But the whole time you shouldn't be thinking about the interview. Don't stress about it. It'll come when it comes, and when it does, you need to be confident. Don't worry about it. Really, you're there to see if the school is good for you. So don't freak out. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the time there. Try to learn about the curriculum more. And yeah, that's number 4. Number 5, this school could be your future. Like I was saying before, it's like dating somebody. You're dating this person for 3 to 4 years. You want to make sure that they're a good fit for you. Okay? So be confident. You're interviewing these people as much as they're interviewing you. You want to make sure that this is the right place for you, because you are investing a lot of time and a lot of money into this. Do not forget that. And it's not, I don't want you to think it's a life or death situation. Oh, I picked the wrong school. Really, education at the end of the day is about what you make of it and how much effort you put in. But if there's something specific about the schools that you like, you might want to pick another school over some other one, or the location, whatever it may be. So really, this interview is for you too. And don't ever forget that. All right, so now that we talked about the interview day up until the interview, we talked about what you should do prior to the interview day. Look at things, maybe contemplate some ideas about questions. Now let's talk about the interview. So the first piece of advice I can give you is do not think about what the interviewers are thinking. Okay, so if you say something and you're like, oh crap, like they might misinterpret that. Don't think about that. Just tell them how it is, be yourself, and do not worry about it. I just had an interview where they were writing stuff down while I was talking, and I think only during one time I actually looked down at the paper. And they'll tell you before, they'll say, oh, we're just writing down stuff for our own notes, whatever. Even if they are grading you, who cares? Just go in there and kill it. That's all I can say. Don't think about what they're thinking about. Don't think about if they misinterpret what you said. Don't think about if they think you're not a good fit, whatever. Just worry about yourself. That's all I can say. And really, when you go in there, you want to make an impression, right? Because you are essentially competing with everyone around you. But if you got the interview, you're steps ahead of a lot of people, because not everyone gets the interview. And usually if you get the interview, there's a good chance you're going to get in, unless you completely butcher it. So when you go in there, strong handshake. Do not have a limpy, flaccid hand. Nobody likes that. But if you do, just try to be strong. Try to give it a little oomph, okay? Maintain eye contact. Now, this goes along with the confidence thing. You want to make sure you're confident. You're not afraid to look at somebody in the eye, even if they have crazy eyes like me. Do not be afraid. But that's something you want to do. And know who you're talking to. So usually, not always, but usually, they'll tell you who they are right when you introduce. They'll say, okay, well, I'm a faculty member, I'm a pharmacist. Cool. Okay, got you. Next, I'm part of admissions. Okay, you're part of admissions. You're involved with the curriculum. And then the third person, or the second person, depending on who it is going to be a pharmacy student. So you have a lot of questions to ask. You could talk to the pharmacy student. I don't recommend talking to one person the whole time. You should have questions for everybody. Keep everyone incorporated. But if you want to lean on the pharmacy student, you could talk to him 80% of the time, okay? But when you're explaining yourself during the questions, you look at everybody. You want to make sure everyone's accounted for, because all it takes is one person to say, I do not like you. This person did not look at me one time. That's enough for you not to get accepted. So really, you don't need to worry about, you could ask each person one question, that's fine, but when you're answering questions, really make sure you look at everybody. Don't, if someone's intimidating you in the corner, don't like look away from them. Look at them occasionally, even if it might scare you. Some people have really scary faces, or very, very serious faces, I should say. Don't let it intimidate you. So that's the first bit of advice. The second bit of advice is you should have a notion of the type of questions they're going to ask you, but you should never go into it assuming they're going to ask you questions. And you don't want to over-prepare. So I wrote down a few questions that are very common that you're likely to get. First off, why do you want to be a pharmacist? That everyone's going to ask you that question. If they don't ask you that question, I would be baffled, because that is why you're there. Why do you want to be a pharmacist? And then second, why do you want to be at this school? Now, this is where the research does you justice, because you want to research, okay, well, they have a 3-year program. I'm going to tell you, a lot of schools have a 3-year program. A lot of schools have block system. A lot of schools have similar things, so you don't want to use something that's very similar to explain why you want to go to that school. That school should have something unique about it that interests you. And I remember one girl who's a current pharmacy student she said, oh, I really like this school because it's cheaper than everywhere else. Don't say that to these people, okay? Even though that may be a good reason for you to be there, money's always good. Do not say that this school's cheaper than everywhere else, that's where I want to be here. Try to create something like, oh, I like the early experiential learning. That's something that's big and important to me. I like the social aspect of this school, working with others. I like that the school is involved with the community. Things like that is what you should say for the school, okay? So another one, tell us more about yourself. Now they might start this interview with this question. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Or they might end with it. Oh, is there anything else you would like to tell us about yourself? If they end with that question, you always answer the question. Do not lose the opportunity. If they say, tell us a little bit more about yourself, you better tell them something about yourself. And they're not looking for, oh, well, my name's Mitch. I like playing sports. I watch horror movies. They're not looking for that. They don't want your location. You could tell them your location, all right? Just to, establish a personal connection. My name's Mitch. I'm from California. I'm 25. That's a good starter. But what they want is maybe some past experiences that have influenced your personality, who you are. Maybe things that you're interested in and passionate about now that actually say something about your character. So if I said, yeah, I like horror movies, that doesn't tell them anything about myself. If I said something like, yeah, I like to go over to my friend's house. I have a lot of diverse friends. I like to go over to their houses and participate in their cultural events. That tells them something about you. That tells them that you're open to outside experiences. You're willing to accept other cultures. That actually says something about your personality. So if they do ask you that question, try to incorporate something that may be of interest to them. So for example, mine was, I was an athlete. I grew up, and when I was maturing, I had really bad social anxiety. And over time, I got over that social anxiety. So now I've learned the importance of incorporating others into conversations. If I'm in a group, I know the importance of eye contact. I really value social bonds and going out with people. I don't check my phone when I'm at lunch or anything like that. So that's something that is important to me that I told them about. So just think about something you could tell them about that isn't cookie cutter, like I like playing baseball, I like ping pong, whatever. I like running. But if you like running, you can say, I'm really into fitness. I think health is important. I'm really into health. Things like that. So try to elaborate a little bit more. They might ask you about your strengths and weaknesses. But here's where the over preparation could hurt you. So you want to know these things, right? Strengths, weaknesses, why the school, why pharmacy, tell us about yourself. Know the generic questions. But you don't want to over prepare because they might ask you questions that you're not ready for. And if you just try to memorize every question, okay, they're going to ask me this, I'm going to respond like this, that's going to hurt you because they're going to ask you a question that you're not ready for. And you're going to be thinking like, okay, well, what do I say to that? I don't have an answer for that. This is where confidence is key. You want to go in there, be confident in your answer, and really answer every question they have. So they might be like, oh, well, you're in a situation where, how about this? Who is your favorite professor and why? Or what was your greatest academic achievement in a class and why? So tell us about that. So yeah, you need to be prepared to talk about that. And I'm not saying you should memorize, okay, well, who was my favorite professor, least favorite professor, but you should know how to respond to questions like that quickly and effectively. And that's where confidence matters. You don't want to freak out. You don't want to lose your brain in the middle of the interview, okay? So let's talk about the third and final part of advice. I know this is almost 20 minutes. It's a long time. I did this on the fly, but I feel like it would help people to actually sit through this. So yeah, do you have any questions for us? Yes. When they ask you for questions, you have to have questions. If you say no, they're going to lose interest in you very fast. And like I said before, the questions that you ask are for you. You are seeing if you want to go out on a date with the school, right? This is a very big commitment. This is going to be your career, right? If you want to be a pharmacist. So it's a huge commitment. You want to get the information that you need to make a decision. So by this time they've already looked at your character. They've asked you the questions. They've interpreted it. Okay, well, is this guy going to persevere? Is he going to crumble? Is there anything we don't like about him? That's all over. Now this is you asking questions. So the only way you could do this wrong is if you don't ask questions. So ask them questions. What I like to do personally is I like to hit each person, not like slap them or anything, but hit each person with a question and say, okay, well, if I'm talking to the faculty member, what character traits of students are successful at the school and why? If I'm talking to the pharmacy student, I might say, well, how do you manage your time? Because this is such a huge time commitment. Do you have any hobbies, or do you do any extracurricular activities? Things like that. So now I've hit 2 people. Now if I go to the admissions person, I might say, well, what do you do? How do you listen to students' demands for a curricular change? How do you change the curriculum? Are you thinking about changing it in any time in the future? What would you personally like to do to change it? Things like that. So really ask questions. My emphasis is on the curriculum mainly. I like to talk about the curriculum. I do like to talk about, because if you ask about maintaining time, that's a question that's applicable to any school, right? So usually if I'm talking to the faculty member, asking about character traits isn't bad. It's a more generic question, but it's not a bad question. You could ask about, does this school offer veterinary pharmaceuticals? Are we going to learn about that? They might say yes or no. They might talk about it, whatever. Are you involved in research? What do you look for in students? Like, just questions, okay? And then you could talk about the campus. Is this campus associated with any other colleges nearby? I asked this one. I said, do you do any community vaccinations? And yeah, they said yeah. So you should know the right questions to ask about the school. Don't ask questions like, is this college going to be hard to pass? Am I going to get stressed out? But you could ask about, okay, well, if I'm stressed out and I'm struggling to pass, what can this college offer me to help me succeed? So try to avoid no question is stupid, but try to avoid the generic questions and ask more specifically about the college, because really you're trying to see if it's a good fit for you. So, okay, well, that was a mouthful. That was 23 minutes. I'm sorry for blabbing your ear off, but I'm hoping that someone gets some good information out of this. This is Fresh Knowledge 2019, and yeah, hopefully my technologically challenged self can actually upload this to YouTube. But hey, thank you for sitting through it, and I wish you good luck in your future interviews. Remember, don't panic, be confident, and you are there to see if the school is a good fit for you. You're not there to be interviewed, okay? That's what I want you to take away from this. You want to see if this relationship is going to work for you. So, thank you.